Thank you. All right, welcome back to Melanin Minds, uplifting Black women creatives in the comic book and manga space. It is your host, Natasha, and
Ty, hi.
hey, so we have a great guest today, Robbie. Robbie is born Priscilla Atkinson. So Robbie is Jamaican American, which is great because fellow Caribbeans in the house who also happen to live in Atlanta. All right.
Mhm.
Creative. She's an entrepreneur. She is an entrepreneur. She's an activist. She went to school to initially be a cellist, which is so cool. Orchestra kids in the house because I played violin. She ended up pursuing film. She studied abroad. She went to France, Korea, studied Korean and French. Like I'm so like impressed with this entire like this is so cool. So, and of course, after studying abroad, she graduated. She got her bachelor's in film and video with a minor in music. She eventually got her master's in digital production. She has a production company called RPX Media Productions. She's worked as a videographer, editor. She has taught or been a teaching aide for special education and children with autism and done work in K-pop and with Viz Media, which is why she's here today for her manga, The Seventh Kingdom. So hand claps, Jesus Christ. Boy, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. It's such an honor to be here to be able to talk with you guys. And I mean, it's amazing. You know, when you go through life, you have these random experiences and you're kind of like, how does this all fit together? And then it all just works. So that's that. It sounds impressive, but it felt as random as it probably sounds. But nonetheless, though, precious lessons and memories made from it. So I'm grateful. Just
Yeah.
grateful. Thank you so
To be
much.
fair, it is all in the creative sector. So as random as it
Mhm.
seems, it's still like really all kind of in the same realm.
This is true. This is true. Hmm. Perspective.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. So to start, we would like for you to share a bit about your background and your journey as a Black woman to where we are now.
Gosh, man. I mean, my how I got started, my background. I mean, I would have to say that my background really starts from my upbringing as a child with a dad who loved music, loved film. And I think me being in orchestra made him love the cello. And then a mother who was into science, but was always someone who was big on details, yet big picture, was big on grit, resilience, all of these things. And I think that all of that kind of came together for me in deciding that I wanted to do film because it just made sense. I grew up watching films with my dad from as young as I can remember, going to the movie theater, watching movies, and we drive home and we talk about it. So I went and got my degree in that, and I really went on this journey of kind of just learning through school, but wanting the hands-on experience. At the time that I was at State, Georgia State University, I mean, The Avengers was shot in, I think it was Hurt Park. Like we walked by the film set and we saw scenes of being shot, but we were not allowed to be on set. And really just wanting to be a part of that. And finally getting the chance when I got to work with Lionsgate for the First Ladies, when I got to work on set for MacGyver and do things with Nickelodeon, I eventually got a taste of that as a production assistant, and then veering off a couple years before that and working in the K-pop industry doing videography. And all of that was really just an endeavor to explore different avenues and perspectives of storytelling. So when I finally filmed our psychological horror film Kalimba, that was such a huge and rewarding experience for me. A transition from promotional videography, a transition from music videos to more direct narrative storytelling where you have a lot more control and more creativity with the talent that you get to work with. The table readings were so fun because we did character analysis, we did practice sessions, all of this, and then getting away from that, feeling like I was on a bit of a high, and I said, you know what? I had this manga idea that I had been wanting to do for a long time, and I said to myself for so long, like, when the time is right, when the time is right. And honestly, after I did Kalimba, I realized there is no such thing as the right time. It's just the time that you're willing to allot and the dedication to adjust and learn and grow as much as you need to be able to progress along that journey. And so I said, well, let me go ahead and do it. Around that time, my dad had passed as well, so I said, well, I have no reason to hold back now. So I went ahead and gave it a shot, and I reached out to Walla, who I connected with on Instagram years ago. And Walla by then had done a lot of work with like Viz Media and had done so many big things that when I finally shared the script for the first volume, they were just like, I'm down. And we just got started. And I mean, today, what we're working with right now looks a little something like this. So yeah, that's how I got here. I think as a Black woman, it was an interesting process because I mean, I was the first or the only in many rooms. When I did K-pop videography, I was the only Black female videographer that I'd ever seen for like any state that we went to. And oftentimes the idols were very shocked when they would be introduced to a team normally of women, and then they'd see like this one Black person, and then add to that the tallest, because I'm 5'10", so they would just be like intrigued, you know. And then to see that I spoke Korean and get to befriend the choreographer who's worked with GOT7, who worked with all of these groups, worked with Bobby, with Icon, with all of these, and then to befriend the makeup artist who like she has a picture of herself like on the red carpet with Tom Holland. So it was just an amazing encounter, right? Even the freelance work I did sometimes as a photographer for the Atlanta Jewish Film Festival, oftentimes I was the only Black female photographer, and sometimes that was a rough ride, and sometimes it was a great experience. I got to meet Lou Gossett Jr. before he passed away, which is funny because he knew as soon as he spoke to me that I was Jamaican, which was like funny that he could just pinpoint that. But I mean, I got to be a first, and I learned to carry myself. I mean, I was always raised to carry myself a certain way, but even more so between studying abroad and these different career opportunities, you recognize that you are probably, for some people, a mental image for your community, and you have to carry yourself with a certain level of respect. Even when you're confused and the artist is speaking Korean and they're jet lagged and they're tired, even when you are in the midst of these very uncomfortable situations, kind of just learning to find the joy in it and learning to pivot and keep on with it. And even as a manga author, realizing I tried to look on ChatGPT for the statistics behind Black mangaka and even female mangaka. There's like not even a number. It's like there's not even a stat. It couldn't even pull anything up because for all the doujinshi out there, which is the Japanese term for self-published, they don't have any stats on Black women doing this particular genre and this type of work. So it's a fun process, but sometimes you have to be very deliberate about building community so that you don't feel alone, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And if I may, I think it's really interesting that you bring up the fact of like being the only one in the room. I've definitely done like I also did freelance photography, specifically like cosplay photography, and oftentimes I was also kind of like the only Black woman in that space, and at sometimes it can feel a little bit isolating, at least in my own personal experience, because especially as you mentioned, like that confusion of, am I doing this right? Yeah, what am I looking for? Seeking that community. How have you been able to kind of navigate being the only person in the room, trying to maybe is in seeking not just community, but maybe even seeking guidance or mentorship?
That's a very good question. Because I would say right about now, I finally found mentorship. That whole time I did not have mentorship. And I more or less learned by kind of like listening to other people's conversation, that they were typically having like outside of me. You're nearby and you hear them talk and they say, oh, when you do this, you get this shutter speed, you get that. And I'm like, okay. So then you go and you try it. And then they see you do it and they're like, oh, no, try that. And you're like, oh, like this. And that's how you get the help that you need sometimes. Mentorship, gosh, I wish if I could do one thing a little bit different in the past is to get mentorship earlier, because I didn't have any mentorship. I came from coming from an immigrant family and a creative field that most people wouldn't dare try because they immediately assume that you can't make money in it or that you have to struggle for a long time. You don't have that mentorship immediately. You have to go find the people. And I remember struggling sometimes, like You're trying to figure like, how much should I be charging for this? And people not wanting to tell you because they were like, oh, well, you're this or you're that. So maybe you should be charging less, or, it's up to you what you want to charge, and still that lack of transparency. Right. I would say I learned to network. Typically when I went to these events, I networked with the audience and I networked with the other people. So sometimes there's the manager that you talk to, and sometimes the person you're taking the picture for actually is the manager of another company. And so you network with them, you talk to them. And that was how I built my community. Sometimes if I couldn't build it with the team, I built it with the people who were at the events that I was shooting, who were the subjects that I was paying attention to in my line of work. If that answers your question. In essence, mentorship and community was harder to find, definitely.
Yeah, no, I'm so sorry. It's such an interesting, like, also even when you're talking about like finding the statistics of mangaka, female mangaka, black female mangaka. I think it's so interesting because off the top of my head, I was like, I tried to find the numbers, like, how many do I know? And of course, like, now I would say, like, I can only count 4. Like, you are actually someone I just recently added, but beforehand it was like Gigi Murakami or I think it's Shimonoda Studios. She's actually makes more like manhwa, but really, and I think even one more, but I can't think of the name. Like, it is such a small pool, such a small group of people, but I think that also could just be notoriety. How much do we talk, or how much do we connect as within our own communities? How much are we looking for each other? Or, if I'm sure we are all looking for each other, but who's talking about us, kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Right. Is the difference from with like the comic side of things, where we do at least have a number. It's a small number, very small number. But like with the manga, I agree. I don't think a lot of people are looking for, where are the Black women making manga so I can put that stat on there. And just like with the comics, I always say, I don't even think that's counting everyone. That's only counting those who do have the notoriety to be well known enough to be bothered to be like, okay, well, since people know who you are, let me add you to those statistics right quick. So that, because now you matter in the full span of things. But then seeing that you have only recently found community, because I agree, community is very important, whether it's on the manga, the comics, to just, as Black women in general, in any creative space, community is so important because we need like-minded people who know our experiences. And so what role has that community played when it comes to you trying to do your creative endeavors?
I mean, it has made all the difference because recently was notified that we were accepted to Anime Weekend Atlanta, which, yes, thank you. And that came around my birthday, that notification. So that was a wonderful birthday gift. The friends who kind of were just watching for a little bit suddenly stepped forward and said, "What do you need and how can I help you?" And I was like, I mean, do y'all mean that? And they were like, absolutely. And I mean, the way they've all just run together to help plan, the way they've all run together to help me arrange this all, it has made all the difference, and taken so much of a load off of my back and my chest. I have had influencers. I learned very early on that part of that notoriety and getting the word out there is the braveness to stand out and be seen. I was almost, and I do sometimes, I mean, Robbie J. Atkinson, a lot of people assume that's a white male, right? But the willingness to show up sometimes calls people to you. And so I've had a number of influencers who I have lined up who want to work with me. Some of them have worked with the larger Japanese companies. And one of them said to me, "I'm going to be there. Just let me know what day it is and I'm going to be there and I'm going to help you." And I was like, okay, sure. Right. That has been a huge help. And honestly, with the marketing in general, letting people know that there is a manga out there that's being made by a Black woman, right? I have whole Discord servers now that I'm part of where they deliberately kind of shouted out everyone on the channel and they said, "Hey, y'all need to lean in, you need to tap in." And it's amazing I think I should say this coming from my background. So I grew up an only child. So solitude is not something that I'm unfamiliar with. And if anything, you learn, because you don't have siblings, to do certain things by yourself. So really seeing a level of community that I don't think I ever had before, it makes me so grateful. And it has helped so much, because you can make strides, right? But you make strides and then you get tired. And that was something I dealt with for the 5 years that I had my production company, and the 3 or maybe 4 years that I had my nonprofit. You can be burning out. So when you have that sense of community, when you get tired, you have people who are willing to go the extra mile for you, to help you, so you get that chance to rest. And that is so important, because what you absolutely do not want to do is burn yourself out to where when you finally get the opportunity and the chances that you're looking for, you're too tired to actually act on it. So community has meant everything to me. It's been great.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that burnout, and I think that's something that I've heard. Like, I think that we, as just in general creative space, and like I think there's a national consciousness, specifically the United States, can't speak of anything else, but United States is this national consciousness talking about mental health. But in the creator space, we often talk about burnout, but we don't talk about burnout and then right when you're at your peak, like you're doing, all of your opportunities are lining up, you've done all this hard work, you've grinded it out, and finally all the opportunities are available for you, but you don't have the capacity to take them on because you're too burnt out to do it. And like I genuinely, I don't think I've heard anybody else talk about just like burnout and then you can't go any further because you genuinely, like, you don't have the mental, the physical, you're feeling sick, or you just feeling like you don't even want to mess with it. So I'm so happy for you, genuinely, that you have a community that's able to help you along those ways so you don't feel so burnt out, or if you do, you have someone that can help you carry over and still be able to achieve those opportunities. Because it sucks so bad. You get to a point and then you're so burnt out. You're like, man, I want to do this event, or man, I got invited to do this thing, and I'm just like, I can't do it. So I genuinely.
And then some of us don't know how to go sit down and relax when we hit that burnout right at the top there.
Is the accountability in the room with us?
I might know a few little people maybe in this room. I don't know.
We don't have to talk about that. It's just, but also like that's so. I feel like that's such a Black woman thing, though, like especially all the Black women I've come across with and working in this creative space. Nothing in the creative field is guaranteed. It's all kind of like very much it is what you make of it. Even in some like more of the, I would say more of the corporate side of creativity of these creative fields, nothing is guaranteed. So you always kind of like planning and anticipating what happens next. And I see that like when you mentioned you have like all these different sectors you worked with and all these different creative fields that you've worked in. It sounds like the creative path, you're like, oh, I'm gonna do this thing, and the next thing you know, you're making music videos. Oh, I'm doing this thing now. Next thing you know, it's like, you know what if I just made a movie? Like it's just kind of the path of being a creative person, and also like that Black woman hunger is just like, but I've got to be the best I can be, because like that's my standard. So I'm glad that you brought up burnout. I'm glad that more people can hear about that burnout, because it's so important to have community to stand by you when you're feeling a little fatigued, for sure.
Yeah, I think that the part of managing burnout is also the delegating, is like building that team. And as an entrepreneur, that was something I had to learn, was like, in the same way that you have to make your own money, the same way, like basically some people, they show up to a job and whether they work or not, even if they fake it a bit, they're going to get a paycheck, right? But as an entrepreneur, you can fake it if you want to. And when your fridge is empty, then you learn, right? But like, you're so used to having to do all of these things to where when you recognize it, if you expect to be, I saw a quote from, was it Venus Williams? Maybe it was Serena, the one who's married to the guy who I think ran, what was it, Reddit, or maybe Quora, I think it's Reddit. And he had an interview where he talked about his wife making a comment that he worked too much. And he was almost proud when she said that. She said, that's not a compliment. She said, for sustained greatness, you need to have rest that is tantamount to the work that you do. And that is only possible if you have a team that is able to take on certain things for you. And I said, Is someone calling me out right now?
You're called out. I'm just saying. I don't know.
Right. Like it's so true. And I think that that's the other part, is building relationships and building that discernment to see, okay, who can I trust? Who can I work with? Who is hungry to help this grow? Who, like, and that was what I'm so grateful about with like my nonprofit. When I had to interview people to see who would volunteer with me, I learned to listen for who had a passion versus who was just like, oh, this is another shiny thing to add onto my resume. Because if it's just a shiny thing, they're going to use you and they're going to walk away, and that's going to leave you even more depleted. So the discernment to know who to delegate to and who to have on your team, that, and sometimes you say no to people who really want it because something feels off, and that's okay, because you have to follow that instinct. Does that make sense? And I think that when you get caught up in everything, it's so easy to overlook the subtle feelings that you get. If anything, I've learned that in order to not do so much work, you have to pay attention to the subtle feelings. And a lot of people say entrepreneurship is not about feeling, but sometimes it is. Sometimes your discernment tells you something before you can intellectually understand it. And it's important to pay attention to that, with opportunities and everything. So.
No, you're truly, I don't, no, you're taking us to church. No, for real though. No, truly. Because sometimes
say Sunday sermon with
Sundays, I didn't know you was gonna be preaching. No, like so genuinely, like I think also, like, as you've mentioned, and like you're from your creative journey, vibes are, as the young folk call it. I'm young folk, so the vibe of a person, that aura, even as the younger folk call it, like truly being able to pick up on, like, man, they did say that one weird thing that didn't quite click with me, and perhaps I should just, like, maybe we should separate, maybe I should step away, or maybe I should bring this in-house. And I think sometimes it's from like a lot of the other creatives I've interacted with, we want so badly to build community, like amongst each other. We want so badly to, like, oh, I want to connect and I want to be creative, but not just like in most things in life, not every creative person is your type of creative, or not everybody shares the same kind of vision that you have. And especially, I think, being a Black woman, we have such like specific things that I feel like every Black woman I've talked to has had to achieve. Like, there's a certain standard of excellence that we want to achieve. There's a certain standard of identity that has to be there. There's a certain standard of just like community. Like, my community has to vibe with this. Like, can't nobody put their hands and touch on this. And if someone doesn't match that energy, doesn't match that vibe that you're on, you're just like, you know what? This was nice. I appreciate the conversation we've had, but respectfully, I hope your path is good, moving forward in the opposite direction.
Having discernment about people is a blessing and a curse, because you're like, oh man, that person just didn't feel right, but man, everyone else seems to like them so much, and I feel like I'm supposed to like them too and support them and everything. And people will be like, hey, they also like them, so that means they're cool people, right? No.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You hear the you hear the history in that, yeah, right?
That's what I was like, oh, that struck a chord.
Good. It's safe to say that everyone here has understood that at some point or another.
Yeah, I mean, you and that's where you have to, you learn to be okay. There's something I've learned where community is important, but there's also a kind of community that if it's the wrong people, if it's people where you're having to drag them, if it's people where you're aiming for the stars and they're aiming for the trees and they're busy discouraging you and telling you're aiming too high, and it's not like the pragmatic, like, okay, how do we take the steps to get there, but just like, no, I can't do that, or no, we can't do that, that's impossible. If you are too busy trying to carry those people with you because everyone else likes them, then you hold yourself back. And you realize that you could have moved a lot farther, a lot faster, if you had more people who are more mobilized. And so there's that willingness to be alone until you find the right people. And that's also something I've had to learn too, because at some point, again, the only child in me is like, yeah, it's fine, I can do everything myself. And then it's like, no, you can't, but don't be desperate. And that's something my mom told me. She said, if you get a funny vibe, don't second guess it, let them pass, because when one door closes, another door opens. If it's not for you, then it will pass you. And if it is for you, it cannot miss you. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Stank face. Very good. Very. I'm sorry. I'm just your hype woman today. Yes. Whatever she says, I'm
She is a good
co-signing it.
woman. I will say that. That's great. So when we're talking about community too, I want to talk about like collaboration. Like, have you ever done like collabs and stuff like that in your creative pursuits? It's not the one I was doing, but that's okay.
Sure. Honestly, this manga is a great sense of. Honestly, I feel that a lot of my creative work feels a bit like a collaboration. I took a class with Sundance. So Sundance Film Festival has online classes that they offer, and I remember one of our professors saying that you want excited co-collaborators. And so I've learned to look at almost everyone that I work with as a collaborator to a certain extent, even if in theory I would be considered like the boss. I don't. You have that authority, but you look at how you can work together. And so, in terms of that sense of community, I would really say that going back to this manga, I most definitely feel that. And I feel that with a lot of our film projects too, because for example, for Kalimba, we had a team of say 30 people. And it was about 6 or so actors and actresses. And I mean, it was very much a sense of family. It was a sense of like we sit down, we eat together, we talk, we laugh. We do a take and the take messes up and like everyone laughs, or we do a take and like, you know, we just have to do it again. And you go through the trenches together and then you come out triumphant and you feel closer because of that. And in that regard, I would say it feels like a sense of collaboration and community at the same time. But this manga very much is more of a collaboration in the sense that like with it, when I work with a DP for film, my director of photography, I give them an idea, vision, and then I can say, okay, I'm not quite content with this lighting. I'd like a slightly different angle. Maybe we can use a different lens, put it on sticks, different things. But with this, the manga feels like very extensive storyboarding, which is an aspect of film, right? And I can only control so much. I write the script. I have a clear image of what I want, which Walla is kind of jokingly saying to me that that's something that they enjoy about working with me is I know exactly what I want. So when I see something, I can tell them exactly how to correct it. But it's very much like once you have the idea and you give them the concept, they then put their spin on it. And that feels very collaborative because there's how you perfectly envision it and there's how it comes out after they're done with it. And it's a great feeling because with Walla, for example, I'll describe something to Walla and I'll say, okay, I want this angle, I want that. And Walla will do something and it'll just be like an unusual angle that I could not have fathomed. I wouldn't have even known how to write that. Well, like just did something better than what I asked. And it was like, wow, that's really good. I'm content with that. It's different from what I envisioned, but I can appreciate it. And I appreciate the artistry that you utilize to bring this to fruition as well. So that very much feels like a collaborative endeavor. And even the marketing, like I said, with the people who helped spread word, people who shared, we did an Indiegogo, and I think I had followers who, you know, I messaged them before I released the Indiegogo, and I said, you know, if you share this, I'll have a figurine ready for you, because we already had people asking about figurines, and I mean, they all kind of just came together and they just shared. And sometimes I didn't ask them to share; I would just see 4, 5, 6, 7 people sharing it, and at any given day, and it was a sense of community with the followers actively engaging with them. So.
I love a good artist who takes your vision and just makes it better. Those are my favorite artists to work with.
The best. I have 2 points I wanted to touch on. First, I wanted to comment about like your approach to collaboration. I find that, and I think that I've seen it, but you're the only other person I've heard talk about it that way. Like, you are technically the head of the team. This is your project. You're the leader, but this is as much as that their project as well. It's your baby, but it's their project too. And together we are the team, so that it's its own collaboration. It's such a good leadership style, because I feel like the people who you're working with, who are quote unquote under you, there's so much more passion and appreciation for the work, and they just brings out their best work when they feel like they have some stake in it, and it's not like they're slaving away working on something that doesn't have as much weight to them. So I love when people have that like collaboration leadership style. It's a good one.
Yes.
So
Why can't big
kudos to you.
corporations understand this?
It's so good. I worked on so many teams where it's just the person doing the thing and they're just like, and I want this and I want this. I'm just like, well, maybe we could try this. Nope, I want it a certain way. And I'm just like, okay, that was that. Thank you for that. Thank
Money
you.
mic check, and I'll be gone.
I think something I've learned too is like, and I think life has just taught me this in general, that like just because you're in a position of leadership doesn't mean you know everything
Everything.
or that everything you do is. And
Mhm.
you may have a perspective that is one way because you see one way of addressing a problem that another person sees another way. So I've made it a point with my DP and with Walla, the illustration team, Tagline 9. I asked them, like when I used to film music videos, especially, and even when I shot Kalimba, we had a scene where I actually didn't have any notes as to how the scene was to be shot. And my AD came up to me like, what is this? What are we supposed to do with this? I said,
Where's
have
my
fun.
shot list?
Yeah, I was like, have fun with it. I gave them like a little prism. I said, play with this prism. Let's see how we can make this look really dreamy. How can we put this in front of the camera to make it look cool? What do you guys think? And they kind of just came together, and it gives me a chance to learn from them because I then look back and I see, okay, so they learn like this and they like to experiment and try things like that. But I see they're veering towards this. So let's see if we can get them to expand that way because this is an opportunity for me to learn. And that's a teacher in me talking, but it's an opportunity for me to learn and for them to learn as well. And you can't learn when you're always talking at people, and when you don't understand where their parameters are. So like with Walla, I asked like, what? I think the question I asked like just the other day was like, what are some things that I can do to allow you to have a bit more artistic freedom? And Walla kind of explained like, oh, when people so apparently Walla's had some experiences where people looked at their art style and was like, can you draw this but like make it look like Naruto? And of course completely and utterly felt disrespected because that's a completely different style. They don't appreciate their artistry. They're asking them to imitate. And so they were explaining to me all these things and I said, okay, so duly noted. And it's an opportunity to learn. And I think when you look at it as a collaboration, you are kind of forced to have these moments where you're quiet so that you can listen. That's how you grow.
I feel like you were a great DP on these film projects. I would love to have you as the DP on a project.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think another point, the second point I wanted to bring up was I am also a first-time mangaka, working alongside my dad on a project, and I've done other creative things as well. I've have some background in theater, much like Tashi and yourself, in photography. But manga and sequential art is something that's so totally different than a lot of other visual mediums. For you, what was it like kind of translating? Because also, quick side, I've noticed a lot of filmmakers really enjoy sequential art making. They really enjoy making manga and comic books. I've seen a lot of translation. But from your perspective, how has it been translating your skills from videography and filmmaking into sequential art making this manga?
It's been a complete and utter treat, and it feels like whatever I can imagine can then be put into a panel because as a director, as a film director, you can say, oh, I have this really cool shot in mind and we can do this with the camera, and the DP's like, yeah, that's another like $10,000 lens, and that's another like at least $10,000 camera, and that's another like $1,000 tripod. It's like, when you want to do something more creative, you like it quickly adds up and you're like, okay, so that's like filmmaking is like, how can we stay within budget and still get the shot? Is that possible? Whereas with the manga, I can do like a very strange angle from the floor to like the character's head, and you can see the whole thing. And it's like, in real life, is there a lens that would accomplish that? I don't think so, but still, it looks cool, and there's so much more room for play with your imagination. And I think that's what I enjoy about it the most. I feel that manga really is writing the script and then taking all of the verbs of like what the character does. The character looks, the character throws a punch, the character slides, and basically just making a panel of each of those verbs and making it as descriptive as possible. And the better your character annotations are, the clearer image the illustrator has of the character, which the annotations are something I carried with me from filmmaking over to manga creation and writing. And that's essentially when you're directing actors, you have to understand your characters well enough to be able to get them to do an improv session with information they have. So for example, you need to know their emotional objective, you need to know their given their obstacle, what's their physical obstacle. And I even have a list of verbs that I use for specific characters. So in the manga series, I have a character who the verbs for them is they process, they analyze, they compute, right? And so that contributes to how they look in the frame and how they interact and what those verbs, the physicality of those verbs. And when you're with actors, when you're directing them, you can't say, okay, yeah, you're thinking, can you think more? That doesn't help. That doesn't do anything. All of the great directors, they don't do that. Matter of fact, some of them will go for, I read one interview where the director takes the actor for a walk and they kind of say, I see that you are, what's an example? They say, like, I see that you're saying, right? You're saying this. I don't want you to say it. I want you to assert. It's the use of the verb, how you use the verb. And then the actor says, okay. And then their interpretation of assert is what gives you that final product. And I think that's something that I tend to carry over with between the two mediums that has helped me. But it's been a complete joy, honestly. I enjoy it. And I could see myself kind of like once I've done a certain number of volumes, taking a break, going and filming something again, release that, and then go back and continue and kind of just balance the two, because it's two different ponds or two different streams of the same pond of creativity. And it allows you to kind of have a moment of rest or a moment of work, depending on where you are and what you're feeling.
I just say DP. I also meant like just actual main director as well. You would be a great director. Oh, because I've had some directors. That's not going to get into that, but it's just like, what do you want me to do? Like you know, the stereotypical, what's my motivation?
Yeah.
I'm not the motivation. What is it? Help me, please. And they don't know. They don't know exactly what it is they want from the character. It's just like, I can't give you what you want until you figure out what you want. I can give you what I think in my, but until you figure it out, I can't accurately give you this scene. Like, so I love that.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm telling you, Sundance classes definitely helped me a lot. So thank you.
I almost forgot. I mentioned first time. How has it been? This is like your first manga. Like the first one is always such a unique one because once you get the formula down, it's it. You're just cooking with gas at that point. But your very first one, your baby, you conceptualize the story. How has it been taking this idea? And if I'm not mistaken, it's the Seventh Kingdom. Starting the Seventh Kingdom off as an idea and then transforming that into a full visual manga. How has that process been for you?
Surreal, because it's something to imagine. And I think I got a glimpse of this when I wrote Kalimba, which I heard you talk about making your manga with your dad. So Kalimba was actually a feature film script that I had co-written with my late father. And right before he passed, he kind of said to me, like, this is going to be your project, work on it until you're happy with it and just run with it when you get the chance. He wanted me to film it for years and I procrastinated, and then when he passed, I finally did it. But I would say it's been incredibly rewarding, because to create a character from scratch, from experience, pieces of people that you've met, little thing, you go out. And my dad had a degree in psychology, and from a young age, again, he took me to his psychology classes for his master's degree program, and he had me reading the books with him, and he would talk with me and have a discussion with me. Like elementary to middle school, he had me reading these college level psychology books, and taking that with me into my storytelling and using that to motivate the characters I create and the personality traits and the tendencies and the subtext, like they say in filmmaking. What are you trying to say without literally saying it through this character's personality? To have all of these details written down and then see it translate to a physical medium. And it's one thing when you have an actor embody a character. It's still rewarding, but it's another when someone takes a character who you picked out their eyes, their hair, their clothes, their height, and someone puts them together. It's like Build-A-Bear, but it's like on paper, if that makes sense. And it's really amazing seeing people resonate with the characters. Like, so this character, the tea master, and I have more pictures of him, but like this character, the tea master, the number of people who have run up to me just from seeing this guy was hilarious, because I didn't think people would like him so much, but like just seeing the response, people who haven't even read this story yet, just being in awe and like ready to read it. It's really it's unbelievable in a way, because a couple years ago I would not have fathomed that I would have tried this, but I've been living by a certain quote that I've had on a sticky note in my living room, my dining room. And it says, in order to go where you've never gone before, you must do what you've never done before. And to see the progress of really adhering to that as much as possible, and seeing by the grace of God things come to life, it's I'm still processing it, I think is the best way to put it. Because like when I got the book, so there's a sneak peek version, and to see all of this like in paper, I sent a picture of this to the artist, and the artist like started crying. They were like, what? It's rewarding, to say the least. And I feel blessed that I get to take my talent, and that I can show it to people. And I feel blessed that I get to do something that I enjoy for a living, because there are a lot of people, at some point you just see people at our age doing jobs that they really hate. They're making money, but it's golden handcuffs, because they're doing it and they're tired and they're exhausted. They don't have time freedom. They don't have location freedom. They do it and they're resentful. And they're just silently resentful for 40 plus years of their life until they retire. And they spend 5 days looking forward to 2 days of the week, the weekend, right? Like I don't have to do that, because I can wake up. I've had days where I woke up, started writing because an idea popped up in my head, and I wrote from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And most people wouldn't do that. I had some times where I sat up until 7 a.m. working on this, because I was so focused. I was like, I have this thing I want to do. I don't want to stop until I get it done. And I know that in any other situation, any other job, I would not have sat up till 7. Nope.
Right.
Not for anyone else. So I feel very blessed to be able to see this all come to life, and see it on shirts and all of that. So I feel blessed.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Also, merch is fire. I was going through your website. I was like, I have to get one of the merches. I love me some good anime merch, but I'm talking about quality, not just the pictures. I'm talking about it's got shape, it's got I have to big you up. Whoever your mind was cooking.
You know, when you put it on, it's gonna be like, so, ooh, this is soft.
What a good pair of pants. Little hair. Oh, I had put it on my little Pinterest board. I was like, oh, that's a fit. That's a fit. I'm about to, let me tell you, good
she
stuff.
Is very, very organized. She has a whole fashion Pinterest board and like a fashion a board just for like to plan her outfits, and like I wish
you ain't gotta release the secrets.
Like, you need the secrets, Ty, because we all need to know how to be as organized as Ty. Okay.
Oh, don't lie. It's the illusion of organization.
Clothes with your clothes.
Oh, absolutely. Clothes is my hyperfixation. That's why I had to go. As soon as I saw the shirt, I was like, oh, this is baddie wear right here. This is baddie wear. This is anime baddie wear for sure.
So that was another like surprising and rewarding aspect of it, like in designing the clothes, because I designed them. One day I was just like, I walked into what was it, Hot Topic, and I was like, these shirts are not it. These shirts are not it. Why are they not it? How can we make it better? And yet another day where I just got the inspiration, I just put it together. And so I think going and seeing that there was a lack of creativity in the merch that was being made, like they were charging you $35 for a shirt with the logo. I said, no, I refuse. I refuse. So I'm glad. I'm really grateful to you guys like the designs as well. Thank you so much.
I love that, because I think that's one of the things that always, it's like, yeah, we have merch, but I'm just like, I want to make like good merch. I don't want to sell a logo.
Right.
I don't want to.
I think it's such a quick aside, like it's something I'm really, really interested in, but how fashion plays into being a part of the nerd and otaku community. Once you get into like you're doing conventions, like the fit means something. The fit is worth taking the time, and I think it's so cool that you have such an attractive and well constructed piece of merch, because truly I think that, you know, marketing, from a marketing standpoint, it markets itself. It's just like, okay, but who's the character? And it's not just the logo of your book, but on the back of your shirt in a panel, I see your character from top to bottom. It's just like, oh, who's that character? Where is it from? There's been plenty of times, like, if the merch is good enough, I'm like, okay, but who is this character? I kind of want to know why you're touting around someone's, you know, whole head on your shirt. So truly brilliant, good stuff. The fashion is necessary.
Thank you.
Ooh, I'm sorry, it's hot in here. I need water. Someone help me.
SOS, please. I feel that.
At least I'm not alone. But I am going to grab back to the questions right quick, because these are those last few that I feel are really important, because they're always about like your advice and your beliefs in the community. So like this one is, how do you believe that Black women can amplify and uplift each other within our creative spaces?
Oh boy, I would say financing and marketing, because there are so many creatives who have so many ideas and they don't have the money to put it together. And so when you see someone put together like an Indiegogo, if you can give. I am someone who, based on just my belief, what you put out, you get back. And when you give, when you release something financially, that always comes back to you. And I could tell you some stories about where I just made a sacrifice to give like $20 and I got back like 40, like shortly afterwards. It just, from somewhere completely random, just support financially, because a lot of these creatives have such great ideas, but they are not seen because they don't have the money to show up. They don't have the money to get merchandise printed, to get books made, to get boxes made. They don't have that. So when you, like, other communities understand that where you put your money is where you're giving power to. So if you really want to amplify other Black female creatives, put your money where your mouth is and support them when you can. And that can be $2, that can be $5, that can be $30, that can be $50, that can be $75. But support them financially when you have the chance. And I would say the other aspect of supporting them is marketing, because that is what I'm seeing a lot of self-published authors are not really doing, is they're making their work and they may have a social media page and maybe they have a following on a Webtoon or on Medibang, and that's cool and all, but when you have the money to put down, when you do an Indiegogo and you have 1K to put towards advertising, or you have 1K and you can advertise at Atlantic Station, because that is doable. When you put the money together and you put the money together and you can advertise and show yourself and stand out there and be seen, that makes all the difference in your brand and your notoriety, like we talked about earlier. So when you see someone who has something great, share it, tell people about it, word of mouth. There is some, I don't know if you guys know, but Hayao Miyazaki's The Boy and the Heron, he didn't release an ad for that for a while. He just put out word that he was making it, and the fandom set it afire through word of mouth. That was marketing. That was a marketing ploy right there. A very good one at that. Because by the time he finally started showing the ads, then they were like, oh yeah, there's that thing I heard about, because it was already out there. So however you can help people market, whether it's helping them put out flyers, or maybe just telling somebody about it, or like sharing a website, sharing a social media post. The marketing and money, these are two ways that you help amplify voices, especially in a digital age when you have social media and online presence. You don't have to physically go out in front of people. You just have to have the money to target your audience so that the right people who are already following you or who would like what you have can see you automatically. And that builds, there's, I think it's Pew Research Center that talks about how people are more likely to buy when they have brand, there's like a sense of familiarity with the brand, but you can't get the familiarity if they're not out there. So help them get out, help them become familiar. That's what I would say would help.
Can I say I appreciate you putting the money one first?
Yes.
Because people will always pose the questions, hey, small creators and this and that, and they do this all the time. How can we help you? And like, I'm always just like, money. You can invest in us, you can buy our stuff, da 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 da. And then I think I had someone before, it was a man, was just like, well, that's not always. And I'm like, that, yes, the sharing and stuff is great. Please also do those things, or do those things if that's what you can do. But I'm tired of us
Mhm.
pretending that it's not money. We live in
Mhm.
a capitalist society, and it's the best way, which is usually the question, to support small businesses and small creatives is to actually spend your money on us. Then
Mhm.
Yeah.
after that, it's spreading the word.
And
Mhm.
also, I think it's so funny. There's a common conversation that happens specifically within like indie spaces for manga, comic books, and everyone's like, "Well, who we don't make our own, who's making our stuff?" It's like you guys are always supporting Marvel and DC and Viz and Kodansha, and I'm just like, but they do exist. Indies are always there. There's always a Doujin creator. There's always a indie comic book creator, a small group of people who are putting all their passion to their projects, who are marketing, or at least who use the hashtag. But
Mhm.
I do think that there is a lack of genuine interest sometimes. Instead of buying, your topping off your local comic book store and going and grab your comic book of the week from somebody that is as canonically always made comics, and then just spending maybe $2 extra to buy a book from somebody that might look interesting, that also is of your who comes from similar backgrounds, who makes comics that are familiar to you. So I'm really happy that you also said like marketing, like
Mhm.
genuinely marketing someone else's book. But it's not, we don't call it marketing. It's just like, oh yeah, I'm looking for a new comic book. What should you suggest? Oh well,
Right.
I'm suggesting, The Seventh Kingdom. Have you read it? It's a very, very good book. And it's just like, it's
Yes.
so funny because people will be like, oh, but have you seen the new Batman? Like, I love that
Mhm.
for you. Have you read the new
But have you?
Boruto? Yeah, but like, with the Seventh Kingdom though, have you like Midnight Comics? Have you read it though? What's the
Right.
question? So I definitely agree. Like, I would love to see more people talking about our books, and I definitely agree. In community, we gotta shout out each other more within community, as it definitely helps. Does nothing but help each other for sure.
Exactly. It's a lot, yeah. Like you said, it's
I would,
a lot of saying it, but not a lot of doing what you said you're going to do.
yes. I would also say too that something that the artists have to be mindful of in terms of receiving that support is part of building that trust. So I read a book once, and it's so funny that I worked in a school, and I remember one of the teachers complaining, like, "We work in a school. Why are we reading a book written by a businessman?" And now that I'm in the situation, it makes sense. The book was by a guy named Stephen Covey, and it was called The Speed of Trust. And he talked about the importance of building trust, using your brand, using your business. And as a creative, you entice people to trust you and to invest and to help share, recommend, market, right? By showing them the value and knowing how to articulate it. I've seen stories of people who started off with like different like clothing or whatever, and without having actually had anything ready, they made millions of dollars. Why? Because they knew how to articulate the value of what they had. And
Mhm.
I took a business class, I took an 8-week business class so I could learn how to share the value of the series. I registered for pitch competitions, and even if I didn't get anything, the goal was to learn how to be able to summarize all of the strongest points of the series, all of what makes it unique, all of the PowerPoints of it into one concise conversation. So if you meet somebody and you show them something and you say something enticing enough, you win them right then and there. They follow, they share, they go and they contribute. You see what I'm saying? The other side
Mm,
of that, aside from people being willing to help you financially and through word of mouth, is them seeing something that has value. That's what business is. How do you articulate your value, and are you sharing your value with the right people? Because if you're talking to, I don't know, moms with like kids and they're at Target and they're interested in pacifiers and you're telling them about your manga, they're not going to support. But when you find out that your target audience, you can go on ChatGPT and say, I am this author writing this kind of book, using what I've described, using your expertise in psychographics and consumer personas, write out a customer persona. and have ChatGPT tell you exactly where your target audience shops, what they eat, what they wear, what music they listen to, what brands they like. You go to these places and then you tell them about your manga. People will buy on the spot. I've been to GameStop and showed them a poster, and the employees ran from behind the desk, ran up to me, snatched the flyer, and said, "We don't care if our boss says that we can't put this up. We're putting it up." I was like, okay. But you see, you get that response when you are in the right place and you know how to articulate your value.
I love that you do all the things that we've been trying to tell some of the other indie creators to do, because we found so much value in these business programs and these cohorts and pitching competitions and stuff. It's like, guys, please go do them. If you really want to keep doing this, go do those things.
I actually love the fact that you bring up things like pitching competitions and business competitions, because I think that might just be a lack of access to knowledge. Like if you don't know that something exists, or that you didn't know that that's something that you could connect with. Because a lot of times, as a creative, a lot of my most valuable information has come from, well, what should I be doing? Because sometimes I don't really know. And a lot of, like, as we mentioned at the very, very top, is like a lot of this entrepreneurship experience is hoping someone you'll be in the right space at the right time to hear the right information, or hoping that somebody will be kind enough to give you that information and won't gatekeep it from you, or hopefully that you're in community and there's good information, not misinformation, flowing within that community. So maybe, like, as one of my final questions to you, what kind of suggestions or tips would you give to entrepreneurs for gaining access to some of this information that you've come across?
I found, simply put, networking. Simply put, networking. And I say networking in the sense of, we were sponsors of Women in Film and Television Atlanta recently, and I remember going to a monthly mixer, and one of the women there was part of the program with DeKalb, and she mentioned some kind of business accelerator program. I went up to her, I spoke to her about it. I showed up to the event. I showed up when the event was just about done, and the woman at the front desk saw that I had driven 50 miles to get to this event, if not more, almost 100. And she said, "All right, I'm going to give you this bit of information." She wrote down some names, some emails on a sheet of paper, and that led me to SBA, Small Business Administration, that offered free coaching, business coaches. And you can choose. She gave me the name of a coach in particular, but you could choose whichever one you wanted. And all of this, I got all of these other opportunities and all of these other openings from this coach. But I knew about that coach because I went to this event, because I was out networking. That goes back to my conversation about showing up, looking for places where you can simply talk to people and find these free markets of information. You just talk, because that's literally how some communities build their wealth and their brand. They go out and they talk to people and they find out, oh, this person runs this company and they're looking for interns. Bam, your son just got an internship. You know what I'm talking about. So that, I would say, is how you can get that information. Another resource that I would recommend, aside from networking itself, look in your state for small business resources, Black business owner resources, or anything that resonates with your community where they're offering resources to your community. Look for those opportunities. And if you don't know where to look or what to type, go to ChatGPT and say, "I am a small business owner looking for resources to help with coaching, to help with mentorship, to help with possible financing, to help me learn more." Put in a prompt about what you need, what you're looking for, and ChatGPT will list out the websites, list out the people, sometimes have their email address, and you go down the list and you click. You create a spreadsheet, paste everything in, and you go down and you click and you email people, you ask questions, ask them to refer you to people if they don't have any information for you. That's how doors open.
Yeah.
No, that's valuable.
But yeah, it's a really good website that gives you like all the, at least I know there's one for Georgia and a few other cities and a few other states, where it gives you all the business help, different programs and all that kind of stuff, and even grants and stuff on occasion. And we would have never learned about it if we didn't do the business cohort earlier this year. And another business owner who was in it with us, who also lives in Atlanta, told us about it.
Right. See, the networking. Yes. Sharing of
Indeed.
information.
And I think that question actually went really nicely is pretty much the same as the last question I had because it was an advice question. So I think that with that said, we can go to our Black Women in Comics fact of the day. And today we're talking about T. Franklin, who is a Black, queer, and disabled and autistic award-winning and best-selling comic writer. She is a New York Times bestseller and an Eisner winner. And funny enough, I came to know of T maybe about 3 years ago. Her very first book called Bingo Love, which is a beautiful and amazing story. And we did a video on it actually for, I don't remember if it was Black History Month or Women's History Month, but we did a video on it. And if you've never read Bingo Love, I suggest checking it out. T also writes for Harley Quinn and the newer Spider-Man. So really good repertoire, really good stories, really great writer, and just really entertaining if you're not following them on Instagram.
Interesting.
Awesome.
I'm gonna have to check them out.
Please.
Bingo Love was good. I really enjoyed Bingo Love. I'm not much for romance, but
Me either. It was so good.
It was very good. It was very good. Yes.
That has me curious now because I'm picky about my romance. You know, I feel like Inuyasha was a frustrating love triangle there, and a lot of people love that. So I don't. My threshold of frustration is low when it comes to romance. So I'm going to check it out. I'm curious.
I'll have, you know what? I'll send you some romances because I'm also very picky. I don't mind a little will they, won't they, but you know, I don't want your dead girlfriend coming back consistently. Like, go be with her then if you love her so much.
Right?
Yes,
go
ahead and do that. I did not do I didn't do a thing for this season at all. So that means I don't have one to say. So we can just go with Robbie. If you could give everyone your socials, your website, where to find you, and a little bit about your book.
Absolutely. So for anyone who is interested in purchasing my manga, they can visit rpxmediaproduction.com. So right now we actually have something called we have a, how do I say this? We have a pre-order window. So you can't just go, well, you can pre-order. You can find it on TikTok, which is at the number 7th Kingdom. But if you want the package, that will sometimes come with like a poster, will come with stickers and buttons and shirts and key rings and a number of other things, limited edition merchandise, then you have to join the pre-order waitlist. And we have a pre-order window that opens 3 times the rest of this year. It actually already opened August 23rd. Next one is October 25th at 5 p.m. And then the last one for the year for that particular package of limited edition merch is going to be December. I believe it's going to be right before Anime Week in Atlanta. So like within the first or second week. But otherwise, if people are interested in checking out the 7th Kingdom, they can go to rpxmediaproduction.com/the 7th Kingdom. And again, that's the number 7th. And our Instagram account is the_7th_kingdom as well. And just connect with us, enjoy and follow our journey, and just watch the progress that's made and accomplished. It's we're a community, we're a team, and we're all in it together. So I welcome it.
I'm glad you said that because I actually thought the pre-orders had ended and I was really sad. So thank you.
Yeah, so at the bottom of that page, there is when you click T7K perk package on the website, it will take you to a page that says sorry, pre-orders are closed. When you scroll down, and even on the main website, there is a box where you can enter your email information and your name, and you will be notified like as soon as the window opens. So once you get that notification, you can run in and get everything you want. So
got it.
Okay.
I don't know how to move people around, but Ty.
Oh yeah. Did you want me to? What do you want me to do? I'm so sorry.
give your stuff. All culture, beauty.
This ain't about me, but sure, you know, it's BLAQUE, the letter NKULTURE. That's Black and Culture on all platforms. Or you can Google me because I'm there too. Yeah. that's all you need to know right now. And yeah. So I wasn't prepared to be. I thought this was about Robbie. I
It is
was like,
about Robbie.
why am
You
I
are
here?
here now. You get to. Oh, you thought because
Yeah.
you already had your guest episode, you don't have to do this again. No.
Oh yeah, no, I thought that was
Now.
it. I thought that was. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm messing up. I'm messing up the podcast. Okay, yes. But yes, it's Black and Culture on all platforms. I make content predominantly on TikTok, but I will be soon making tons of great content over on YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, you should. I'm trying to become monetized because your girl needs her money. And then, of course, if you go to my website, blackandculture.com, you can read my manga. If you're looking for more Black manga to read, yeah.
You mean the YouTube channel that doesn't exist?
Oh, what? No. Anywho, yes. Yes. My black. Right now I'm Black and Culture. But when I'm not hurt, get me off the screen.
I'm sorry. You guys are probably going to see me teasing Ty a lot this season because it's hilarious and she's the sweetest. But anyway, you can, of course, find us at Midnight X Comics on all social media platforms except for YouTube and Facebook, where we're just Midnight Comics. You can go to midnightcomics.org to find our comics and manga. And we are also having a pre-order event right now for The Gray issue 2. So please don't miss out. That officially goes out in October, I believe, if I am not mistaken. Also, you can find me at official_Toshij, TOSHIJ, on all platforms except for Facebook and YouTube, where it's TOSHIJ89. And let me double check. Yes, October was correct. So please pre-order The Gray and also pre-order The Seventh Kingdom. Both of those are going to be amazing. So don't miss out, because then you'll be sad when you missed out. So anyway, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Melanin Minds. Do not forget that a small flame can lead to a larger blaze, and we will see you on the next episode.